Welcome to Omaha, Nebraska for a loaded night of Big East hoops on FS1 as the Big East season has arrived with a bang, and we're getting rolling with you on Shootaround. Hi, everybody. John Fanta here with you. It's never too late to say Happy New Year, and our first episode of 2020 coming to you from the CHI Health Center, where there's a huge showdown here tonight. You've got the 12-3 Creighton Blue Jays and the 10-3, 16th ranked team in the country, the reigning Big East champion, Villanova Wildcats. These teams in 6 previous meetings in Omaha, the Cats have taken 4 of those, but tonight it's got a different intensity. This one stands out because it comes early in Big East play, and these two teams at 1-1, both in the top 30 of the net rankings, they both find it hard to believe that they could be 1-2, and they really don't come off as those types of teams, but it speaks to the depth of the Big East. And when you've got these two teams playing each other, expect high-octane offense, expect great point guard play because junior Colin Gillespie on one side for Villanova, on the other for Creighton, it's Marcus Zagorowski, a sophomore, who has really taken the leadership role, and expect three-point shooting. Coming up on the show, we'll talk with Omaha World Herald writer John Niatawa with his latest on the Blue Jays. He's got their Paul's day in and day out, and he'll talk the latest Big East storylines. Also, the Butler Bulldogs, they're 6th in the country. Their head coach, LaVall Jordan, will Skype in from Indy. We talked yesterday, and he'll break down why this Dogs team is achieving a historic level of success in Indy. And we'll hear from both coaches, Greg McDermott and Jay Wright, in just mere moments. But first, let's look at some of the numbers, the net rankings, the latest NET rankings. You can head to NCAA.com and get these. And how about the Butler Bulldogs coming in at number 3 in the net? I mean, that just says it all about what they've been able to do. 14-1, owning a combined 8 Quadrant 1 and Quadrant 2 wins. They belong right near the top of the net, and that's why some bracketologies have them as a number 1 seed. Beyond that, you've got 4 teams between 21 and 27. Think about it. Creighton, a lot of people nationally might not think this, is ahead of Villanova in the net rankings. Blue Jays coming in at number 21, Villanova at number 23 heading into tonight. So you have 2 NCAA tournament teams at the moment that believe that they can get solid seeds and have put it together in non-conference play. And that's a big theme in the Big East because all 10 teams are in the net top 100. With the Providence Friars rounding it out at 99. And that shows you the depth of this conference. There's really no basement dweller in the Big East. As we turn to bracketology now. And Mike DeCourcy, new to Fox Sports this year. He will have his brackets on @CBB on Fox. And Mike's latest bracket, he's got the Butler Bulldogs as a number 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. Villanova checking in at number 4. Seton Hall a 6 seed in the East. And then you see some of those double-digit seeds. Huge for Mike Anderson's team, and they also have that win over West Virginia inside Madison Square Garden. Big game for St. John's tomorrow because you want to avoid an 0-3 start in Big East play at all costs. They are at Georgetown. Those two teams are 60 and 61 in the net. Marquette, right now a 10 seed, they will take on Providence tonight. As the AP Top 25 poll, we take a look at that, and there's 2 Big East teams ranked, with Butler checking in at number 6 in the country. Their highest AP ranking in program history. Incredible what LaVall Jordan is doing, and right now you'd have to say that he's one of the lead contenders, if not the lead contender, not only for Big East Coach of the Year, after his team was picked 8th in the preseason poll, but how about National Coach of the Year? Villanova now at number 16. Speaking of the Wildcats, they're coming in here tonight, and since 2013, think about this, they've only lost consecutive Big East games once since 2013. It was on a 3-game losing streak last year. Now the Wildcats are facing that type of streak again here tonight. They don't want to lose back-to-back games, but you're coming off a tough one at Marquette, a Marquette team that wanted to bounce back from a loss to this Creighton team. So now it's the Jays and the Cats tonight. Here's what Villanova head coach Jay Wright and Creighton head coach Greg McDermott are saying. Jay, you just wrapped up shoot-around. What's the message to your team tonight?
Well, we got to be able to play together defensively against, I think, one of the best offensive teams in the country. I always think Greg McDermott's one of the best offensive coaches in the country. So, now these guys are experienced. They know his system, and we've got to be able to really communicate and really work hard to defend their cuts and their personnel.
On the offensive end of the floor for you, you're held to just 60 points at Marquette. What do you need to see change on that end of the floor?
I mean, it sounds simple. We got to make some shots. That's number one. I thought we got some good shots against Marquette. We just didn't make them. And then I thought our decision making was not what it normally is. And that's something we just have to continue to work on. And again, we got some inexperienced guys that just have to learn. And the best way to learn decision making, you try to set up simulation in practice, but the best way is to be in games and see how teams play you and how officials call games and make the right decisions. And I think our guys will start learning that. I think the Marquette game was a good lesson.
Finally, you're on that marathon to March, so I don't want to put all the pressure on someone here tonight, but looking big picture for your group, who could be an X factor for your team that maybe hasn't fully broken out yet?
Well, the interesting thing about our team is we have a lot of X factors. Like we just. But now the bad thing is we don't have any solid go-to guys yet. But I think Sadiq Bey can still break out. I think Jeremiah Robinson Earl can break out. I think Jermaine Samuels can get a lot better. We just have the kind of team that we have to establish some consistent. First of all, we got to get like one or two guys that are consistent every single night, and then continue to build on that.
Good luck tonight.
Thanks, buddy.
Greg, as you look at this showdown with the Villanova Wildcats, the point guard play leads the storylines. On one side, Colin Gillespie, the junior. On the other, for you, sophomore Marcus Zagorowski has taken a big leap. What exactly have you seen him do to evolve his game?
Well, there's good guards on both sides all the way through the lineup, so that's going to make for a fun game. But, Marcus has worked hard in the offseason. I think probably most importantly, I think he's healthy. Last year, he played part of the year with that broken hand and then battled some hip situations really the entire year, and we got that fixed in the offseason. So I think it's allowed him to work on his craft a little bit more. His body's stronger, and I think that year of experience under his belt has given him a lot of confidence moving into this season. What's the primary concern that you want your team to be most aware of against Villanova? Well, you have to kind of be aware of everything. They're so disciplined on the offensive end, and they're good with the dribble drive. Obviously, they shoot a high percentage of their shot attempts from the three-point line, and you get caught up in being so worried about that. Now they're shooting layups, and we have to try to fight that. And because they shoot a lot of three-point shots, there's a lot of long rebounds, and offensive rebounding becomes really, really important. So then on the defensive end, Jay's teams have always competed, and this team is no different. They'll get out and try to deny some passes and try to make it difficult. So we've got to try to spread them out, try to get them going at our pace, and see if we can't get this building into the game. In a matchup where both teams can certainly get up and down, you can spread each other out, what could be an X factor? Well, like I said, I think rebounding, number one. I think number two, we have to keep them off the foul line, and we have to find a way to get there. And if we can do that, then I think we got a great chance. You've won 15 straight inside this building. How much do you need your crowd, those 18,000 or so behind you? Well, they're a big reason we've won 15 straight. On the game nights at home, when we don't quite have it, they're the shot in the arm that we need. It's a very knowledgeable fan base. They understand when their team needs a lift. They'll make it difficult for Villanova, but in a respectful way. So I think it'll be an awesome environment here tonight and be great for college basketball. Another night in the Big East, right? There aren't any easy ones, John. That's what makes it fun. You take a look at the Creighton fans, and if you've never been at the CHI Health Center here in Omaha, it is an experience unlike any other in college basketball. That's not to say that there aren't great atmospheres across the Big East Conference, but when you come to Omaha for a ball game, it stands in a class of its own. These fans are smart. They get it. They know when to get up on their feet and cheer on the Jays. There's just something about a Creighton game day here. And tonight they're expecting right around 18,000, filling it up. 8:15 local time on FS1. We'll revisit this Creighton-Villanova matchup in just a little bit. But first on FS1, it's 7 Eastern time from the Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee. It's Marquette and
The surprise, the Providence Friars, as we look at Big East Hoops headlines. The Friars are 2-0 in Big East play, and that is a bit of a shock considering where they were in non-conference play. 6 losses, but they found themselves in a get-right game against Texas. Sometimes those marquee non-conference games bring out the best in you, and this Providence team found themselves offensively. Coming off a 66-65 win over DePaul, Nate Watson with the free throw. But what stood out to me in that one was Lawan Pipkins. He had 4 second-half threes, and Ed Cooley has said it this season that they're going to go as far as the UMass transfer takes them at point guard. Pipkins turned it on. He had 16 points. The senior guard Malik White poured in 16 as well. Providence has found some backcourt offense. They need that perimeter shooting. They hit 10 threes against DePaul. Now can it translate tonight? Tough test at the Fiserv Forum, where Marquette is 24-3. Let's turn to number 2. The Seton Hall Pirates. The Pirates, led by Miles Powell, and with his return has come a surge here for the blue and white. They really benefited from the loss of Powell due to the injury, that concussion injury, and Sandro Mamukelashvili still out. But Seton Hall came together. They gutted one out against Maryland with a great defensive performance, and then Powell's come back. 27 points in that win over DePaul. He was just sensational in that victory. Just think about this, folks. Seton Hall only allowed 10 points in the final 10 minutes against DePaul at Wintrust Arena last week. Miles Powell scored 10 in the final 4 minutes and change. He just has a closer mentality. And when you consider that Quincy McKnight, Miles Cale, and Jared Roden have all taken leaps as this season's gone on, that bodes well for the Hall. Oh, and Romaro Gill is a man's man. That 7-footer, do not run into him. If I'm in an alley and fighting somebody, and God forbid, I don't know who's fighting me, but I'm taking Ro Gill. Because if basketball doesn't work out, being a WWE superstar can. By the way, SmackDown's on Fox every Friday night. Finally, Butler, the Bulldogs. History. 14-1, a number 6 ranking, and to think that they were picked 8th in the Big East preseason poll and are now 6th in the nation is nothing short of unbelievable. We knew that Kamar Baldwin, the senior guard, had that closer mentality and could get it done for Butler. But here's all you need to know. This past Saturday against Creighton, Baldwin went scoreless in the first half. Butler still led by 10 at the break. And that says versatility. It says depth. They have found scoring from different sources. The senior stretch 4, Sean McDermott, gives them a perimeter threat. Jordan Tucker would be one of the lead candidates for Big East 6th Man of the Year right now. And the sophomore guard, rather the junior guard, Aaron Thompson, has taken a real leap here in his 3rd year. And that's why Butler doesn't have to throw everything at Kamar Baldwin, but they have found some versatility. They're not just a one-trick pony. And that's why the metrics speak for themselves. Number 3 in the net. They're 6th in the country. And Joe Lenardi at ESPN, in his latest bracket this morning, had them as a number 1 seed. That said, the 3rd-year head coach LaVall Jordan told me earlier this week, you don't get trophies for any of these mid-season awards or any of these high rankings. He's trying to keep his team focused day by day. We talked about that mentality and much more in a brand new one-on-one. LaVall, you're the talk of college basketball, and we were just talking about, you said there's no trophy for that. That said, as the head coach of this team, when did you think that these types of things could be possible for them?
Yeah, John, I don't know going into it if you know how it's going to all shake out, right? But we feel good about our group, our leadership, and our seniors are doing a great job. Aaron Thompson, our point guard. We knew you had some added pieces with Bryce Enzi and Derek Smits and Kay Battle and our development. So now, but guys still have to get out there and do the job, every day in practice, and you take it game by game. So I don't think we've hit our ceiling. I think we still got a lot getting better to do, and I think our guys have a good focus on just getting better every day.
You own 8 combined Quadrant 1, Quadrant 2 wins. That's the most in America. And you said you felt good about this group, but even in this 14-1 start, what has surprised you?
I think this group's I've been proud of their resiliency. It's like we haven't you've gotten in a couple of games, Stanford, where it didn't look great, and we had to, find a way. We were at Baylor, and in the one loss so far, and we were down big and had to fight back and give ourselves a chance. And St. John's the other night is, one of the craziest games I've ever been a part of, where we had it, then we didn't have it, and then we had to fight to get it back. And so just, their resiliency, in each moment and different moments has been something that, they've led, but, been proud of just watching them respond.
How rewarding is it when you learn something about your team in those types of moments?
Yeah, that's been our conversation, John, with the guys is, don't let others define you. You get to define yourselves. So now you get these opportunities, and we knew what did we know on the front end? Well, we knew we had a heck of a non-conference schedule, coming into the season. And so you'd get opportunities to define, who we're going to be. And then we'll get tested and get to make a choice. And so we talk about, the toughness is a choice. And so when you get into those moments against good teams in different environments, you have to respond. And so that's where, we've been proud and watching those guys grow in their response and responding with some maturity about us, which I think is we got some veteran guys, and so they've had some maturity in big moments.
What makes Kamar Baldwin such a good closer?
I think he's got courage. It's one of the things that you try to find in recruiting, and you don't really teach it. Some guys have a knack for making the shot when with the clock running down, and he made a big one. Started his freshman year here, his career at Butler against Northwestern to win the game, and I'm sure he made them in high school. And some guys just have a knack for it, and he's one of those guys. He's got unbelievable courage, and he's a great, unbelievable person, and got great humility. But he can rise to the moment, and he likes the moment, and everybody trusts him in the moment.
In your two Big East wins thus far, not as much of a flair for the dramatic against Creighton, but certainly a lot of drama in Queens against St. John's, and yet you found a way to finish that one off like you have here beforehand so many times this season. But just when you think about those first two games and the 16 ahead, how much, when you're in a league where 10 teams are in the net top 100, do you literally have to take things just second by second?
That's it. I mean, there's no, if you want to make yourself restless at night, go ahead and look ahead at the schedule. One game's enough in this league. It's what you love about the Big East. It's the best league in the country, best coaches. There's an unbelievable amount of talent, and every night, you're going into environments that are going to be crazy. You have to embrace it, and you got to respond. Like I said, I haven't been a part of the game like St. John's, but it's hard to go on the road and get a win in this league, and it's hard to get a win in this league in general. And so, it's Big East basketball. It's it's what we all know. So now you can't get ahead of yourself. It's like just take today for what it is and try to get 1% better, and that's our mindset. We'll take them as they come.
You're a Colts fan, right?
Yes, sir.
So I'm a Browns fan. So as tradition does, when the schedule comes out every May, we play the schedule game and think, okay, this is how I'm going to get to 9-7, 10-6. Now I haven't been there for a long time. You can't play the schedule game in this league.
Yeah, I do it as a fan with teams I'm a fan of. I don't do that with our team.
Don't do that, even though you're a Butler Bulldog fan as well.
Yeah, I don't do that with our team. It's like, how are we going to get better today? Now with the Colts, I definitely do it.
But not with the Butler Bulldogs, not in this Big East. And you know what, Coach? I think if a lot of people tried to play the schedule game, I don't know that they would have scripted 14-1.
No, again, game by game, and I think that's where our guys have been great is just locking in on this one and us getting better, and then taking the game plan. They've been really good at executing the game plan, up to this point, and making adjustments in the game, and then learning from that one to move on to the next one. And again, credit to our leadership. We got some veteran guys who aren't letting us get ahead of ourselves.
Thanks again to Laval Jordan for joining us. Butler takes on Providence Friday night at 9 Eastern on FS1. And with that, let's ask the expert. We've got the Omaha World Herald Creighton beat writer John Niatawa with us here at the CHI Health Center. I'm John Fanta, and Big East Shootaround leading you up to a big FS1 doubleheader. So, John, let's start with this Creighton team. 12-3 on the season. You think those 3 losses have come to 2 of the top 3 teams in the net, San Diego State and Butler, and then Michigan. So when you look at this Creighton team, what are the key ingredients that have led them to winning 12 of 15?
Well, they're tougher than they have been, I feel like, maybe last year. They're older than they were last year, more experienced. They've kind of just found a way. It's been rather impressive to see them navigate through a pretty challenging schedule during November and December with limited numbers. They had to slow the pace down at times, get off to fast starts, and then just try to find a way to grind out a win in certain games. But they've done a good job. So, I think there's a toughness factor. There's more experience and maybe some motivation from last year because they didn't want to be an NIT team. They wanted to be in the NCAA tournament, and they just missed it. So I think those factors have helped the Jays.
How much does that toughness factor start with the sophomore point guard, Marcus Zagorowski?
Yeah, I think a lot of it. I mean, he is an East Coast guy through and through, and you talk to him and you kind of immediately get that vibe. He's a competitor. And there's a lot of guys on this team who are, but he really embodies it. You can see it on the court. He, obviously, another guy who's experienced after playing this first year in Big East play last year, but he feels good. Like last year, he was dealing with a hip issue, and he had surgery over the offseason. He played with a broken finger and still led the Big East in three-point shooting as a freshman. So you can see the difference in his game just because he feels better. And then, that toughness kind of shows itself when he's diving after loose balls. He's been a tone setter for this team. Like I said, they've got a lot of them, but he's right there at the top of the list when you think about who's leading the way for the Jays.
All you need to do is look at last year when Marcus Zagorowski was injured for a couple of games. Creighton didn't win without him. They went 0-3, and they need his presence. We know Tyshawn Alexander and Mitch Ballack, the 2 juniors, what they can do. But Greg McDermott, with the kind of offensive mindset he has as a head coach, you feel like that has to start at the one position.
Well, yeah, the point guard, I mean, he initiates everything, right? You see them as soon as they grab a rebound, more times than not, they're looking for Marcus so he can trigger their transition. They're known for their pace here at Creighton. They like to push tempo, and Marcus Zagorowski is the leader in that in a lot of situations. Ballack and Alexander certainly can operate, and they make good decisions in the open floor, but Zagorowski is the leader there. And he's upped his scoring game a little bit. He's been more clever inside the paint, and his scoring numbers are higher. And so that, I think, has added a different dimension to Creighton's attack. You know about the shooters in Tyshawn and Ballack, but now you got Zagorowski kind of knifing his way into the heart of your defense, causing havoc. He's been a big piece for them.
What's the difference in this building of those 9 Big East home games when the national champions of 2 of the last 4 years, when the reigning Big East champions, the cream of the crop, Villanova's in town?
Well, I got to imagine that Jay Wright and the Wildcats are pretty familiar with this idea that when they come into an opposing venue, they're going to get the best of the best, not just from the team that they're playing, but also the fans. I think that's just, you got a target on your back when you're the champs, right? So every time that since I've been on the beat, when Villanova's come in, it's been a different environment, different atmosphere. The one thing that I've noticed is the fans are here early, and they're loud early. So you can already sense that there's a buzz in the arena 30 minutes before tip, and that's not always the case here. So now it's a good crowd on a day-to-day or game-to-game basis, but this one will be a little bit more juiced, and so I think that the fans really appreciate watching good basketball. You know Nova's going to bring it. Personal
anecdote, last night, getting into the Uber from the airport at midnight, the driver picks me up, and the first question from him is, who's got the better backcourt, Creighton or Villanova? Because I think it's the Jays. I think they've got the best backcourt in America. And we jumped into a bunch of Big East basketball talk. And that just says it all about this town and how much it's going to be on fire tonight for this big one. Let's turn to the matchup itself. What do you think is the biggest concern of Creighton's that they've got to be ready for that Villanova's really good at?
Well, Villanova can score, as everyone knows, right? They're an elite offense, and I think it's their length and size. Creighton's a small team. It's going to start a 6'7" guy at the 5 position. couple 6'5" guards and Marcus Zagorowski at the point. So Villanova's going to have – they're going to be longer, stronger, more athletic in a lot of spots. And so I think that concern – I mean, when you look at the Wildcats, each guy has the ability to put the ball on the deck, go to the rim, post you up, bang a three in your face. I mean, they're so versatile, so skilled, and they're a really good team that in terms of capitalizing on your mistakes. So Creighton got to do a good job of just being disciplined and playing with toughness and trying to match that level of intensity that you know Villanova's going to bring, because they bring it every night. So that'll be a key to watch, is just how engaged and focused and energetic the Jays are defensively.
This is a big night for players like Denzel Mahoney and Damian Jefferson, because Creighton lost Jacob Epperson to the injury, and they're still without him. There's been timetables written about and whatnot, but they're without him for the foreseeable future. When you're a little bit undersized, you need those guys that can play the 3, the 4 slots that can add some physicality to be big here tonight.
Yeah, those guys are important, but even the guards. I mean, like Tyshawn Alexander's improved as a rebounder. You look at Marcus Zagorowski's rebounding numbers, Mitch Ballock, like they need all 5 of them, man. Like those guys have to be and that's the thing about Villanova, is they stress you at every position. They if they recognize a weakness, they're going to attack it. So certainly, yes, Damian Jefferson and Denzel Mahoney. You'll see sometimes Creighton maybe even go small with 5 guards, and then those 2 guys are playing the 4 and the 5. So their physicality, their ability to stay committed to just kind of fighting, for lack of a better term, in the paint against bigger, stronger guys, that's going to be important for Creighton.
John Niatawa, the Omaha World Herald, is our guest. Let's look big picture at the Big East. What's the Niatawa take on this league?
It's crazy, man. I can't. I mean, I guess our friends in the Big 12 probably are like, hey, this is what we've been doing for a while now. But like, this is nuts. There's no bad team in the league. 1 through 10, it doesn't seem like there's that big of a gap between the first or the 10th team, however you want to rank it. I mean, I remember at the start of the season, I sort of circled stretches of, okay, I think this is going to be a tough stretch. This is a tough stretch. But now it's like every, sort of 3-4 game stretch, you're thinking, I don't know, maybe they'll be lucky if they go 2-2, Creighton, as I sort of look through it. So every night's a challenge, and it's cliche to say that, but I feel like it's really true with this league. It's incredible. And I told you before we sat down to record, I'm really intrigued to see how many NCAA tournament teams the Big East can get, because the league's probably going to eat itself alive, especially in the middle. And there's some teams that put together some really good resumes in the non-conference. Can that hold up till March? I'm very intrigued to see that.
101-25 was a non-conference record. 2 more games there. Villanova will have another Big 5 game, and they'll take on UConn. Would Greg McDermott sign the papers right now if we told him 9-9 and a 6 or 7 seed?
I think any time that you can get in the NCAA tournament, you'll take it.
Yeah.
Especially with this Creighton team that missed out last year, just barely. Had all those close losses, and you think about how many games in this league are going to come down to the very end, and it's going to, a bad call or a bad decision, all of a sudden you've lost 2 in a row or something like that. So yeah, I think Greg McDermott, he wouldn't be alone in that. I think a lot of coaches would be like, all right, if you say that we can get in the NCAA tournament after an 18-game league schedule where every night it's a toss-up, we'll take it. So, yeah, he'd take that, I'm sure.
I think he would. Let's look at impact players here tonight. We start in this matchup, and for Villanova, Colin Gillespie, it sort of tells the story for the Wildcats. 24 points against Xavier last week in a win. He really powered them throughout, but then held to just 2 for 9 from the field against Marquette. He has to be the one setting the tone for this Villanova team. And Jay Wright said it. They rely on him. Maybe they put a little too much on him, but they're putting it all on their point guard. On the flip side tonight, for those around the Big East in the country that don't fully know what Marcus Zagorowski's skill set is, how would you describe it?
Well, he's crafty and clever and deceptively fast, I think. He's fast with the ball just going straight, but he changes directions. Maybe that he's got this pace to him where you think he's slowing up, and then all of a sudden he hits you and he's going by you with a quick crossover or an in-out dribble. So he understands angles well. He knows how to use his body well, and he gets, like I said, he gets into the heart of your defense and causes problems. So fascinating matchup between those two. I don't know if they're going to be guarding each other. I hope they are, because that adds another element to it because they're going back at it and they could be trading buckets. But Gillespie and Zegarowski, obviously, they're going to be the straw that stirs the drink for both teams, I feel like, tonight.
So this game comes at 9 Eastern time, 8 local. And before that on FS1 to start off the doubleheader, a really intriguing game that you might not have said a week ago would be this intriguing, but it is. Providence off to a 2-0 start in Big East play, taking on a Marquette team that's 1-1 that had a tough showing here, but then beat the reigning Big East champions, Villanova, pretty handily on Saturdays. We look at impact players. Kobe McEwen, the junior for Marquette, the Utah State transfer, he was quiet here and had foul trouble, but very loud on Saturday with 22 points.
Yeah, and it seems like the question with Marquette a lot of times is, all right, who's gonna be that sort of that secondary or the auxiliary scorers to Marcus Howard? You know what Marcus Howard's going to bring, but what happens when teams sort of swarm to him and leave openings for others? Who's going to take advantage? Kobe McEwen, he took advantage against Villanova. They needed him to take advantage here a week ago, or someone else to step up and contribute for Marquette. But man, like, he's got that game where he can. It seems like when he gets rolling, he feels good.
Yeah, everything changes for them when Marcus Howard has a Robin, and Kobe McEwen can wear that cape really well.
I like that.
Things go well for Batman in Milwaukee. Let's turn to Providence. Sophomore David Duke has been the key to this recent stretch. 13 assists in his last 2 games, John, and you really like his progression.
Well, I do. And making good decisions with the ball. We know about his defense. I thought he defended really well in his first year. But, man, that's shooting. Whew, the shooting numbers are up.
Gotten better.
Yeah. So I think the one thing that I noticed when I watched Providence early in the year is that I felt that they were just kind of missing that Providence. I don't know whether it's the grit or the kind of the swagger that they always bring, and it seems to be back. And David Duke embodies it, so I love watching him play. He's a super amazing athlete, obviously, but now that he's making some good decisions with the basketball and scoring with more confidence, man, maybe that's what Providence needed to get itself sort of right in the ship a little bit.
Yeah, serious swagger, that Cooley swagger, if you will. And if anyone knows about it, it's David Duke. He's a Providence kid. There's a great dynamic there between the player and his head coach, both being from Friartown. Friars look to make it a 3-0 start in Big East play. That would really be big, not only for where they would be in the Big East, but you kind of cover up some of those tough non-conference blemishes if you start 3-0 with 2 of those being road wins. As we take a look at this week's schedule, and really interesting, Butler going on the road to Providence Friday night, then on Saturday. How about Seton Hall and Marquette, Creighton and Xavier? But back to Friday, you got Providence and Butler, and tomorrow, actually, a couple of really interesting games. Seton Hall at Xavier. I think that's a fascinating game at the Cintas Center.
Hard to win there, right? And it feels like in this league, and you've brought it up, I think I saw you tweeting about it, winning on the road is tough. Oh. So if you can find a way to steal one, and that Seton Hall has already found a way to steal one, I mean, I feel like you're playing with house money for the rest. It's just such a big lift to find a way to do it. And Seton Hall certainly has the toughness to go into Cintas and win. But, obviously Xavier, with all the veterans that they have, a lot of pride on the line. So, I mean, that one looks like just a traditional sort of boxing match between 2 heavyweights. I'm that's going to be a great game. You
want to know what else will be a boxing match? The 114th meeting between St. John's and Georgetown tomorrow night in D.C. Those 2 teams are 0-2 in conference play, and they both were on the inside of the bubble heading into league play. They're going to be gunning for each other.
And that's not all 10 teams can make the NCAA tournament, right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, somebody's got to be
left out. Someone has to lose.
And so these 2 teams came into the league with that on their mind, that they can make it. I would imagine that every team, maybe with the exception of Providence, just because of the losses it incurred, felt pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
I think 9 teams felt comfortable with what they had accomplished in non-conference, and they put together a resume. But now the league starts, and now it's like intensity's ratcheted up. You got to prove it. And so St. John's and Georgetown, a slow start, obviously, but this one's important. You don't want to be 0-3. Just like Creighton and Villanova playing tonight, neither wants to be 1-2.
No.
You don't want to be 0-3. So there's going to be a lot of urgency on the line, or at least a lot of urgency in the gym that night.
There's not many teams in a league that can start 1-2 in conference play and still confidently say after the game, well, we're an NCAA tournament team. But the loser of this game tonight is going to still be able to say that based on their resume. Creighton and Villanova tonight. And before that will be Providence and Marquette on FS1. John Niatawa, thanks so much for joining me here to close things out.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I appreciate you having me on.
We loved having you on. And for our crew back in New York, I'm John Fanta. Enjoy the night of Big East basketball as we get right in the thick of things in this conference. In the sport of college hoops this year, it is defining wide open. And if there's a conference that epitomizes that right now, it is the Big East. 7 Eastern time, FS1 Providence Marquette, followed by a sellout crowd here for Creighton and number 16 Villanova. For John Niatawa, I'm John Fanta. So long on Big East Shootaround.